On behalf of the Osher Lifelong Learning Institute at the Johns Hopkins University, it's my pleasure to welcome you to the Fall 2021 preview. I'm Susan Howard, the program director. It's hard to believe that our program transitioned so fully to virtual learning at the beginning of last year. Our success in a year of uncertainty is thanks to your participation and support, and to the dedication of our wonderful faculty and staff. Our accomplishments gave me great confidence as we embrace changes again this year in locating new campus spaces. In September, we will continue to offer virtual classes for a variety of interests. Class topics include history, film, music, literature, health, and criminal law. In late fall, we may even be able to offer an in-person, socially distanced event or a few short courses on the ground. Like many of you, we look forward to returning to in-person classes with optimism that the university will be back to normal operations in the spring of 2022. The main event today would not be possible without Osher at JHU faculty member Stan Levin. We are very grateful to Stan for sharing his many talents with us in creating this documentary of our classes each year. Please enjoy the preview.
Hi, my name is Ann Wicker. I'm the administrative supervisor for the Osher Institute at Johns Hopkins. I've been in this role for over 3 years now, and I work with all 3 campuses and both memberships, the Montgomery County membership, as well as the Baltimore Columbia membership. I'm looking forward to seeing you this fall and hopefully to meeting some new members.
Hi, my name is Emily Owens. I'm the program assistant for the Montgomery County campus. I assist Osher members with registration and any other needs pertaining to our program. I also assist our many wonderful instructors here at Osher. I hope you enjoy the fall semester.
Hello, my name is Shelly Jiang, part-time program assistant for Osher at JHU. My office is normally on the Montgomery County campus. In addition to administrative and logistical responsibilities assigned to me by the director, I assist faculty, members, and staff with any library requests they may have.
My name is Mel Goodman. I've been teaching a course on international relations at Hopkins for Osher for, I don't know, forever, maybe at least 20 years. I can't think of a more important time to be dealing with international relations than the miserable time we're in right now. I'll teach the course this time with 3 goals in mind. One, looking at the wretched inheritance from Donald Trump and the misery created in terms of climate control, arms control, what he did to our alliance structure, the way he pandered to Russia President Vladimir Putin. The second goal will be to examine that inheritance in terms of what Joe Biden has done with it, because I think he's done well on one level in terms of appointing some rather solid people to replace the mediocre people that Donald Trump had in place. But finally, I will look at some of the problems that Biden has inherited that he's not handled so well. He clearly misfired on the refugee issue. I think he's not done well in terms of the crisis in the Middle East and the renewed fighting between Palestinians and Israelis. I think he's treating China in an old school way in terms of containment. So finally, what I hope to do is address all of these goals, keeping my background in mind, the fact that I had 25 years with the Central Intelligence Agency, and bring some of these intelligence issues to bear on policy to show how intelligence and policy are somewhat linked, and to provide the context that is missing from the mainstream media. So I think with that, we'll have an important semester, and I hope some very good discussion. And my most recent book that came out a few months ago, you can get at Politics and Prose. It's called Containing the National Security State, which will be a major part of the semester. So I hope to see you in the fall.
I'm Jim Blue. I've been teaching Shakespeare at Osher since 2014. This fall, I'll be leading 2 early Shakespeare plays, The Taming of the Shrew and The Merchant of Venice. They are officially comedies, but they are not funny all the time. But they are comedies in that all the characters are alive at the end, unlike tragedies when most of the main characters are dead at the end. Sometimes people these days call them problem comedies. The problem in Shrew is male dominance over women. The problem in Merchant is anti-Semitism. So there will be plenty of opportunity for interesting discussion in the classes. So this is a discussion class, not a lecture class. The way it works, we read part of the scene aloud. We discuss it. I show video clips from a couple of filmed versions. I have excellent DVD versions of each play. And we discuss the different interpretations by the actors and the directors. And from time to time, I provide a few words of wisdom. We'll be using the Folger Library editions. They're inexpensive. They have good notes about vocabulary. So during this class, you'll get a better understanding of these plays and of Shakespeare. And you probably find Shakespeare is not so intimidating as you might have thought. It's a small class, so we get to know each other, even in Zoom. I hope to see some of your smiling faces in September, especially some of those of you who've never tried a Shakespeare class. Thank you.
Hi, everybody at Osher. This is Bob Hines, returning for fall semester again. My course is on the Protestant Reformation. It's Causes, Course, and Consequences, which was a tremendous amount of turmoil in Europe that went on for centuries. It's a watershed event, probably the biggest up until the Industrial Revolution. So the course will start in the late Middle Ages and the troubles beginning to come out of the power struggle between rising secular states and eventually national states, kings and princes, and the church, the desire for reform among certain thinkers and philosophers like Wycliffe and Huss, then leading to struggles in the College of Cardinals. And then we have to digress a little into the impact, because they're like twins, the Renaissance and Reformation all happening at the same time, the impact of the Renaissance on the Reformation. And we'll go on into the Lutheran period, the German period, and followed up by the English Reformation. And then we'll be looking at the political dynastic struggles that all becomes tied up with religion in France. And then we will return back to the Germanies in the 30 Years' War, and end up with the years of the Tudor struggles in the rise of parliamentary democracy in the 17th century. Thank you.
Maryland is referred to as America in miniature due to its geographic and cultural diversity, as well as the impact Marylanders and local events have had on the development of the nation. This series will explore various themes and eras in Maryland history, while highlighting those significant contributions and evolution in the areas of arts and culture. Participants will also enjoy behind-the-scenes looks at archival collections, conservation practices, and primary source research. Topics will include indigenous populations, colonial growth, Maryland's role in military conflicts, experiences of Black Marylanders, as well as the contributions of local artists and creators. Sessions will be led by several Maryland Center for History and Culture Education Department staff and select guest speakers.
Hello, dear friends. My name is Vladimir Friedman. I'm a guitar player and singer. And during my life, I worked in Russia and then in Europe when I had manager in Germany. I was touring all over the world, and during this course of my life, I prepared 27 different programs on different subjects. And this course will consist of 6 different programs. Altogether, it's called American Musical Quilt. And it will consist of 6 different programs. Mixtape of American music, so basically how immigrants created America's music. I will be telling something about this, playing some music, and playing some clips for you from YouTube and other sources I have. And then we will discuss something, and I will always answering your questions in the middle of the lecture, as usually at the end. So I'm looking forward to see you guys. I hope I will see the same many familiar faces, because I was lecturing in 2020, and I know what about you, but I definitely gonna have fun. Not only during the lectures itself, but during the preparation. I have so much fun. So see you in fall.
Hi, I'm Stan Levin. In the fall semester, I will be teaching a class entitled Aaron Sorkin, the writer for the big and little screens. In our current era, when commercial films are action-packed CGI spectacles based on comic books, Sorkin's screenplays in some ways throw back to the 40s with crisp dialogue, humor, and a world populated by smart characters. His screenplays explore the lives of people like Steve Jobs, Charlie Wilson, and Mark Zuckerberg. He deals with many issues, putting together a baseball team by use of computers, government oppression of anti-war protests, social networks. His TV series include West Wing and The Newsroom, and they deal with centers of power, both in politics and journalism. His career is like a movie itself. He has a degree in musical theater. He wanted to be an actor. The closest he got to being on a Broadway stage was selling alcohol. He was a bartender at the Palace Theater in New York. One day he gets a call from his sister Barbara, a recent law school graduate who got a job with the Navy. She was going down to Guantanamo Bay to defend a group of Marines who were accused of trying to kill one of their own. She tells this to her brother, and it becomes the basis of A Few Good Men. By the way, he's still a very busy working writer and now a director. And in the future, I hope it's available by the end of the semester, is a film about making of I Love Lucy. During the semester, I will be showing clips from his films and TV productions in order to share my enthusiasm from Aaron Sorkin. Yes, I am a huge fan. We will also be exploring the art of the screenwriter through Sorkin's career. I look forward to seeing you all in the fall. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Jim Applebaum. I'm moderator of the long-standing Essays Discussion Group. September will mark the 24th annual installment of this Osher offering. This coming fall, we will look at a form of essay called a review. And I'm not talking about those very short reviews that appear often as listings in magazines and newspapers. These will be in-depth reviews. They'll cover, for example, personalities and places and food, health and wellness, politics, all manner of performance, cities, countries, pets, literature, habits, society, stages of life, travel, history, customs, behavior, art and design. All of them, of course, will be reviews, and that they will be appraisals and reappraisals of behavior, of actions, of personalities. It's a broad topic. One of the hallmarks of the Essays Discussion Group is that everybody gets to share their opinions in a polite way. In that way, we're kind of modeling good argumentation and good debate. I look forward to inviting you to the 24th annual installment of Osher Montgomery County's Essays Discussion Group.
Hello, everybody. I'm Don Ross, and we're going to talk about Aristotle. This one is titled Aristotle's Physics, Ethics, and Politics. As a matter of fact, ethics and politics are a lot more fuzzy, and they deal with what Aristotle loves to call the variable. No two situations are ever exactly alike. You can't formulate things with the kind of precision that you can in mathematics. You can't get absolute certainty about moral rules or how they apply, or because there are always unusual situations that happen. No two cases are absolutely alike. You can give rules of thumb. You can do that. You can give general guidance. You can do that. And but that's all we should aspire to in the case of something like ethics or politics, which is very, very different from mathematics, you know? So, there is such a thing as reasonable belief in areas in which absolute certainty is not possible. And Aristotle doctrinally says that, but he's also, he practices what he preaches too. So certainty is one attribute, I would say, of intellectual, the demand for absolute certainty is one of the characteristics of intellectual immaturity.
Some people say a man is made out of mud, a poor man's made out of muscle and blood, and skin and bone, a mind that's weak and a back that's strong. You load 16 tons, and what do you get? Another day older and deeper in debt. Lord, don't you call me, 'cause I just can't go. I owe my soul to the company store. Well, hello. My name is Roy Justice, and I'm a singing historian. I love music, and I love history, and I enjoy putting those two things together that kind of explain how and why we do some of the things we do today. And I'm going to explain a little bit about the class I'll be teaching in the fall. The title of the class is Hidden in Plain Sight, Powerful but Subtle Influences That Persuaded American History. Very often when we discuss things in history, we talk about specific events and large cataclysmic kind of things that influence history. But we often overlook some of the things that influence history in a more subtle way. And I look forward to seeing you all in the class in the fall. And between now and then, God bless and stay healthy. And of course, the music will be chosen according to the topics and mostly sing-along songs that you can join in with. Thanks again.
Hello, mystery lovers. I'm Melinda Kramer, and I'm ready to lead you through next fall's Osher Mystery and Detective Fiction class. For 6 weeks, beginning on November 2nd, we will explore 5 novels set in 3 nations' capitals. And so I'm calling, of course, very cleverly, capital crimes, detective fiction from Washington, Paris, and Dublin. Those are our 3 capitals. We'll be reading some wonderful authors, some from the past, some you may already know, some from today's bestseller list, which, as you know, is kind of against my principles, but I think we've got some good ones from the bestseller list. We're going to start with Tanya French's Faithful Place, which is set in Dublin. And then we'll go to George Simenon and Louise Penny's Paris. We're going to read Maigret Sets a Trap, and Louise Penny's newest one, All the Devils Are Here. I think you're going to really enjoy this pairing. Then we're going to finish with Margaret Truman's Murder on K Street, just to do a little local color. And the last one will be George Pelecanos's The Man Who Came from Uptown, which is recently on the bestseller list. So these last 2 are set in our own capital city, Washington, D.C. Tanya French says, murder is a unique crime. It is the unique crime. It is the only one that makes us ask why. Murder needs an answer. So together we'll find some answers, beginning on November 2nd. See you then.
Staying well as you age. Over this 6-week course, health experts from Suburban Hospital, a member of Johns Hopkins Medicine, will discuss different aspects of how to stay healthy in mind, body, and spirit. Topics will include functional medicine, current nutrition trends, and physical movement.
Hello, everyone. I am teaching this fall an exciting and I hope important course called Fighting Slavery in the United States. My name's Rick Bell. I'm a professor of history at the University of Maryland in College Park, specializing in the period of American history between the Revolution and the Civil War. And that's the period of American history we'll be focusing on in this course. We will be tackling the anti-slavery campaign, the anti-slavery struggle, the anti-slavery fight from the Constitution, which I think arguably is a major roadblock in its original form to the anti-slavery fight, if you think of things like the Three-Fifths Compromise. And then we will carry the evolving struggle against American slavery from that early period in the United States history in the 1780s and 1790s, all the way through the 1850s and 1860s, and culminate in the American Civil War and the destruction of slavery in this war. This course is a sequel to a course I gave on fighting slavery in colonial America, but no prerequisites are required. If you didn't participate in the first half of the course, this second half stands alone and will still, I hope, make lots of sense. I hope you will sign up, and I'd love to take you on this journey into American history.
Hello, everybody. This is Nora Hammerman, and I'm offering a class on the Divine Comedy, A Journey Through Art. And this is, of course, about the greatest poem that was ever written. And it's designed for people who have never read Dante's comedy. He actually didn't call it Divine Comedy, which is intriguing in its own right. Those who have tried to read it and not totally succeeded, and those who have read it and who love it so much they'd like to go through it again. This is the Dante year. 2021 is the 700th anniversary of Dante's death in Ravenna in exile. Because in honor of the anniversary, many museums, including the Vatican, the Uffizi Museum in Florence, and other places, have put out online all of the illustrations that they have in their collection of Dante. So we're going to start with illustrations to help us on our journey, the illustrations that were made in the century that Dante lived and died, and right up to the 20th and 21st century. So those artists are going to give us different views of how people saw Dante's famous imaginary journey through the afterlife. So I hope that you will enjoy it, and I'm looking forward to seeing all of you there. If you've ever, even if you don't believe in the afterlife, I bet all of us wish that there was some other justice beyond this world where really bad people get what they deserved and really good people get rewarded. And Dante is the first person who lets us imagine that and enjoy it. I'm going to encourage people to write their own characters into it if you wish. So that's my, my class. I want to see lots and lots of people there.
Hi, it's Naomi Darrenblum. I will be teaching a course next fall called Queen's Gambit. It examines the role of women who ruled, who were warrior queens, whose power was usurped by cousins or male relatives, or women who were married to kings and whose good works led them to be canonized. We will examine these queens in their rule from the period of antiquity to the Enlightenment. We will look at these characters because they're generally not examined so much in history. We know the big names like Catherine the Great, but there are actually quite a few of them, and it is incumbent upon us to examine how their power was exercised and how different it was from their male counterparts. At the end of the Enlightenment, obviously, we will talk about Catherine the Great, but also about Catherine de' Medici. She's a fascinating, colorful character. Probably all of those cartoons of infamous evil queens stem from her story. She's also probably the first political ruler to have a propaganda campaign, multi-century propaganda campaign against her be successful. We will be relying on books like Antonia Fraser's Warrior Queens, but only on a few of those chapters, and other select publications that examine the role of warrior queens and empresses throughout history. And I think this is going to be a fabulous class, entertaining, but also enlightening. And I hope to see you in the fall. Bye.
Hi, this is Ron Edelstein. I'm going to be teaching Energy and Environment 2 this semester, and I look forward to this. We're going to go beyond the basic understanding of climate change this semester, and we're going to search for possible alternative sources of energy that can deal with this. Due to the timeliness of the subject and the urgency of the climate change issues, we're going to be looking closely at what the Biden administration has done and what they can do, and what can be done by executive action and what might take congressional approval. The year 2020 was the warmest, tied for the warmest year on record. Or will it be the coolest year for the next 50 years? So we're going to be taking a look at the impacts of climate change. We're going to look at flooding, sea level rise, desertification, that is the extension of deserts, increased rainfall in some areas. And we're going to deal with these issues and see what the tie is between those and climate change. And finally, have we reached a tipping point here that is the point of no return, where we won't be able to go back and reduce the impacts of climate change? Are we approaching the 2 degrees centigrade limit of the Paris Agreement? And can we stop or even reverse that? We will look at carbon capture. We'll look at energy storage. We'll look at electric vehicles. And so please join me for this exciting session and a very current topic. And I hope to see you there. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Bill Barry, and I'm excited to tell you about a course we have coming up in the fall. It's called Modern Labor History. And it's an extension of the 2 labor history courses we taught this spring, which had a great population and so much information that we didn't get to finish. And so we are not going to require that you've had these previous courses, but if you want to take this one, we'd love to have you. It's really going to start with the unions during World War II and all the conflicts that came with the defense industries and issues over patriotism and national interest. We're then going to cover the period of the 1945 to 1965, the Red Scare and the attacks on unions and how unions responded. We're going to look at Operation Dixie, which was the attempt for the first time, unsuccessfully, to organize in the South. We're then going to cover the unfortunate attacks on unionism starting in the late 1970s, highlighted by the election of a former union president, Ronald Reagan, and the firing of the air traffic controllers. And finally, we're going to look at the impact of new technology and exactly what many of you have experienced in the last year. Your workplaces have been dramatically changed. And so how you live and how you respond to your employer in this will be a topic of excitement. And we certainly encourage your participation in this. So I really hope that you'll be there. If you have any questions, Hopkins can put you in touch with me, but we look forward to seeing you in that front row seat online in September.
Hi, everybody. This is George Shepper, and I'm going to be looking forward to meeting everybody who might be interested in taking this class. I'm going to be teaching a course called 1900 Cradles of Modernism in Vienna, Paris, and London. I've taught this a lot, but it changes every time I do it because there's always kind of new things to explore. And what I like to do is basically have heavily illustrated talks that focus on art and architecture. I try to get into other areas as best I can, but depending on who's taking the course, if you've got some special expertise in music, for instance, I'd love to hear your comments about the music of Vienna or Paris. So basically what we do is we explore the cultural history of these places, and to cut right to the chase, we could use the expression, how did Paris become Paris? How did Vienna become Vienna? How did London become London? Meaning the places we think of when we think of them as kind of tourist destinations. People go to Paris for, pretty specific reasons, but how did Paris get that way? Creating the kinds of spaces, the kinds of places that attract us there. And so I'm going to try to do that with each of these three cities, because each one of them is a kind of cradle of modernism, of how our modern world really came to be, largely by what was happening in those places, in the cafes, the music halls, the art galleries of those three cities. In many ways, is not only about those three cities, but it's about us. It's about how we became the modern people we are. Be well and stay safe until then, and hope to see as many of you as possible in the fall.
Hi, I'm Bob Clark, and I'll be Zooming this fall with a class called A Time Traveler's Guide to 14th Century England. I had been reading a murder mystery set at the period by Paul Doherty, and at the back of the book, he mentioned his resources, and one of them was a book by Ian Mortimer called The Time Traveler's Guide to 14th Century England. To medieval England. I thought that sounded like a really interesting topic. So I bought the book, and it was fascinating. And I thought, boy, this would be an interesting class to share. So I got several other books that dealt with the same time period, and I've put together the class I'm going to share this fall. Unlike my other history classes, if you've had me before, it won't get into politics. It won't get into the military side of things. It's going to be a social history, what the social classes were like, what their lifestyles were like, what they ate, what they dressed, what their housing was like, education, health conditions and medicine at the time, what commerce was like, city life versus country life, things like coinage, what it was like to live in the city of London, the largest one at the time. And I think it's really interesting, and I think you would too. So I would like to share it with you this fall. I hope I will have that opportunity. Take care, stay safe. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Joan Adams, and this coming semester for Osher, I'm going to be doing a class called Mending a Broken Nation. And we're going to be looking at the time frame from 1870 to 1880. Very difficult time frame in American history, turbulent time, but so very relevant for 2021. Some of the things that are still with us today started and continued throughout this decade and further decades. It was a difficult time because we were continuing to march westward. So even though the Civil War was over, there were still conflicts with indigenous people. The United States was growing not only territorially, but also growing as an economic power and a world power. So during this time, when we come together, we're going to be looking at the people, the things, and not only what were happening in the United States, but was happening worldwide. It was a difficult time, but there were some uplifting things that gave us hope and continue to give us hope as a nation. So hopefully you'll be able to join us for Mending a Broken Nation coming at Osher this fall. Thank you for considering this course, and I hope we'll be seeing you, even on Zoom, in the fall. Thank you.
I'm Eric McWilliams, instructor for the Wednesday's Great Books class. We'll continue in the fall to use an anthology we started last fall. It contains stories by some very famous authors, such as Chekhov and Dickens and Poe and Melville, but also contains a lot of stories by authors from around the world about whom many of us had never heard. When we resume our first class in the fall, we will read and discuss some of those stories by authors unknown to us, at least not unknown to me, like Kate Chopin and Jules Vernard and John Bangs. I lead the discussion for the first few classes, but after that, they're normally led by volunteers from the class. And whoever does lead is expected to follow the shared inquiry method of the Great Books Foundation, which is not lecture, but Socratic, in which the leader of the day is expected to ask questions from the text, which the rest of the class is expected to answer. And since there are only a couple dozen of us in the class, we get to know one another very well, and we learn a lot about one another's values and beliefs. This has resulted in a pretty strong sense of community in the class, and many of us value that strongly, and which promotes a very lively but friendly discussion of the stories. So if this type of class appeals to you, you're welcome to join us in the fall.
Hi, everybody. I'm Dr. Jay Ridler. I'm going to be your instructor for history and its challenges, how historians recreate the past and why others distort it. What's history and its challenges all about? My goal is to share with you my passion for understanding how and why history is made. Who does it? Who gets to do it? Who does it poorly? Who are the enemies and champions of truth? We'll look at various kinds of case studies, such as Holocaust denial, the use of poor history to validate claims in places like self-help organizations or from politicians, as well as the people who do it with panache, objectivity, as if it's a vocation to do it right. Academic historians, as well as popular historians who care very, very deeply about research, analysis, objectivity, and the truth. And what are your obligations showing up to the class? Just show up. There'll be exercises, there will be dialogue, there will be presentations with visual reference points to do with all the case studies that we're going to look at. There will be lots of discussion, symposium style with all of you. And by the end of our time together, I think you'll be well schooled into interrogating those who are using history, understanding if they're doing it well or poorly, and be able to make powerful judgments on those who actually distort or abuse it. Final word, please come with an open mind and open heart. It's going to be a fun class. We'll be dealing with very difficult subject matter, but I guarantee that when we're done, you're going to be thankful for the ride. Look forward to seeing you.
Hi, I'm Marna Williams, and this fall I'll be teaching a course entitled Understanding the Immune Response to Coronavirus and the Vaccines. My background, my training as a PhD is in immunology and molecular biology. And I've also spent 20 years working in the biopharmaceutical industry in translational medicine. And this has provided me with a lens for understanding the science and answering questions from family and friends. And for this course, I'm dividing it into two parts. And in the first part, we will discuss the immune response to the virus. We'll gain a better understanding for how the virus enters the body. How does it enter cells? What cells of the immune system come to the rescue to clear the virus? What are the first responders, the second responders? And also gain a better understanding of those bad players that can actually exacerbate the disease. Then during the second half of the course, we will focus in on the vaccines and the immune response to the vaccines should you re-encounter a virus. And it's my hope that through discussion during this course that you will be in a better position to understand the science during this unprecedented time in our history. Thank you.
My name is Mary Detterer, and I am a professor of film studies in English. And this fall, we are going to have a deep dive into the world of David Fincher. For me, he's been somebody that's been really interesting to watch ever since his first film, which was Seven. So really looking forward to covering his filmography, which honestly isn't all that long, but I think is incredibly intense. And so we'll be looking at films like Social Network, Zodiac, which is one I think of his best films, and Fight Club. There are going to be a lot of films that you're going to be able to access online, several of which are going to be free. There is no reading list for this class. We're going to be talking about the films within the 6-week period of the class, but we're not going to be able to watch the films in class. So I'm hoping that for those of you that are interested, that you will seek out and check out his films. You'll be getting a schedule of which films we'll be covering in each class. So you can either prepare ahead of time and watch the films, or you can enjoy the lecture. And then if it's something that you think you might be interested in, you could check it out then as well. So I'm really looking forward to it this fall, really looking forward to seeing you guys, and take care and hope to see you soon.
Good morning, this is Bob Schoenberg. I'm teaching a course in the second half of the fall semester, and it's titled very simply Novellas. And what we're going to do is read 6 really very good short novels. One a week, actually 2 the first 2 weeks, because they're really very short. And they are real classics of their type. We're going to start with Herman Melville's Billy Budd and Bartleby the Scrivener. Then we go on to Henry James, The Aspern Papers, which many consider one of his very best works in any form, and a kind of long short story called The Beast in the Jungle. Then we'll have Edith Wharton's Ethan Frome. Go on to James Baldwin's first novel, Giovanni's Room. Muriel Spark, The Prime of Miss Jean Brodie. Maybe you saw the movie. Maybe you even read the book when it came out. And finally, a book that I doubt that you're going to know, which is an absolute gem and my very favorite work in the course, J.L. Carr's A Month in the Country. These are not obscure works, and you'll be able to get your hands on them easily.
Hello, everyone. This is Saul Lilienstein. The course I'm going to be teaching is on the operas of Giacomo Puccini and Richard Strauss. I'm combining them together because, well, in many ways, they go together. They're both composers of opera. They both lived at the same time. They're both the great inheritors of the traditions of their country. That is, after Giuseppe Verdi, the great composer of Italian opera is Giacomo Puccini. After Richard Wagner, the same position is held by Strauss into the 20th century. Both composers were capable of, great soaring melodies and fabulous orchestration, and actually terrific stories. That's an important thing about really good opera. The stories are good. We really enjoy them as drama. And these two composers were also great dramatists. The thing is that we don't have to choose between these two great composers. That is, I think of them as, the bearers of gifts. And what we'll do is share those gifts through this semester, gifts of absolutely gorgeous music, exciting drama, opera at its best in the early 20th century. I look forward to seeing you all then.
Hi, I'm Eleanor Clift. I'm a longtime journalist. I write a column for the Daily Beast, which is an online news site. And I'll be teaching a course at Osher this fall, which is titled Taking Stock of Biden's America. And we will be coming up on the end of his first year in office. And so it's time to take account of whether he's been able to deliver on his campaign promises to make government work and to make it work to make lives better. Now, that sounds like an obvious thing that government should be doing, but it hasn't been doing a whole lot of that in recent years, and a lot of people in this country feel like they've been left behind. So the other part of the class will also be taking account of the Republican Party and how it is managing itself and putting itself back together, or perhaps breaking apart since President Trump left the White House. So this is a transition point, I think, in our democracy, where for the first time I am questioning the strength of our democracy and whether we can actually keep it together. But we also have a lot at stake in how our elections are conducted and whether they will be allowed to go forward with people voting fully and fairly. And we're seeing a lot of questions raised about that simple small d democratic right.
Good morning, folks. We are going to study the book of Judges, which is the seventh book in the Hebrew Bible, which describes the transition from the Israelites from being a bunch of slaves and conquering the land of Canaan under the book of Joshua, and the move into monarchy, which will happen with the first king of the Israelites, King Saul, in the book of Samuel. In between, the Israelites resorted back to the tribal system without having any kind of centralized leadership. And the book of Judges will describe us whether this was successful or not successful. The other thing that we'll see in the book of Judges is the first effort by what we call the Deuteronomic historian, which means an effort to explain history through the prism of the Deuteronomic theology, which will be explained more once we start the class, and we will see how that goes. So I'm looking forward to studying the book from beginning to end next semester, and I hope that many of you will join us in studying it. Thank you very much.
Hello, everyone. My name is Daniel Vitaglione, and I will teach a course on French philosophy entitled Wisdom's Fortune, an introduction to French philosophical thought from the beginning, in the 16th century until the 20th century, until the 1970s. I will speak about Montaigne in the 16th century, in the 17th century about Descartes specifically. I will speak about Voltaire, Rousseau, Montesquieu, and Diderot in the 18th century. I will focus specifically on Auguste Comte in the 19th century. And in the 20th century, I will focus on Bergson, Sartre, Simone de Beauvoir. I will speak a little bit about Gaston Bachelard, Albert Camus, of course, and Michel Foucault. That will be a general introduction to, in the light of modern research. It's not just a textbook or the kind of introduction that you might hear in, let's say, French lycées and the French schools or even American universities, where you will hear only the more classical ideas about them. I will go beyond that, and I will show you that everything you imagine about French philosophy, or everything you heard, was wrong.
Hello, my name is Robert Jacobs, and I'm going to be teaching a course called Living in Dangerous Times, the novels of Don DeLillo. So Don DeLillo is considered by many today to be America's greatest living novelist. He's been writing since the early 1970s, and he really is a fascinating writer who has investigated sort of what it means to be an American in the late 20th and early 21st centuries. And we are going to be looking at primarily three novels. His 1985 novel, White Noise, which is about an American professor working in a small college town and his family. His 1988 award-winning novel, Libra, which is a fictionalized historical version of the Kennedy assassination, looking at sort of what ifs, what could have happened possibly with Lee Harvey Oswald and the Kennedy assassination. And then lastly, his 1991 novel, Mao 2, which looks at the sort of intersection of the developing terrorism that was happening in the early 1990s that we have become more familiar with, of course, in our day, and celebrity culture and media culture. So those are the three main novels we'll be looking at, and I invite you to come take part, and I think it will be an interesting class. So thank you.
Hi, this is Ron Edelstein. Please join me for an exciting session dealing with current events that I'll be offering this semester. We are going to go across a whole bunch of topics, both in the US and the world, and we'll be going from the coronavirus and the virus vaccine rollout to suppression of voter rights, to climate change, to the latest Biden administration initiatives. On the international front, we'll take a look at China, both the economic and the military threats there, and their possible and their actual suppression of the people in Hong Kong, the Uyghurs, the Tibetans, and other minorities. We'll take a look at Russia and their actions in Eastern Europe. We'll look at European actions on embracing renewables and other topics that hit the news. On the political front, we'll look at the possibility of removing the filibuster, how to deal with roadblocks to legislative action, and we'll look at alternative energy. This is a different kind of course. This is a course where I ask you for your input, and I ask you for your comments on these different topics. So I will raise the topic. I'll put a little discussion piece in there that I'll talk about, and then it'll be up to you here. So this is an active participation course, and I hope you'll join me there. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Roger Brunyett. My 6-week course, Storytelling Without Words, will look at some of the ways of telling a story where words are not the main medium. You can do it in stone. You can do it in pictures, either alone or in series. You can use mime or dance, music, religious ritual, or maps. Let me discuss 3 of those, all having to do with Napoleon's Russian campaign. First, his battle painter, Gros, tells a story of military might tempered with imperial mercy. Half a century later, in contrast, the statistician Charles Minard draws a map showing the attrition of the emperor's troops, the mighty numbers going out, dwindling to almost nothing as winter sets in. And a decade after that, Tchaikovsky represents the whole thing from the Russian point of view in music in his 1812 overture. None of these attempt to compete with Tolstoy's immense War and Peace, but each medium tells a story, a particular part of a story, in its own unique way. If you want more, go to the class website, branier.com/storytelling. I shall be adding to it over the course of the summer. Thank you. Hello, I'm Roger Brunyett. My 6-week course, Tales from Ovid, will look at the many ways his stories have inspired artists, composers, and other poets from the Renaissance to the present day. Ovid completed the Metamorphoses, his vast compendium of over 250 myths, in about the year 8. I shall sample just 3 of them, using the paintings that Titian created for King Philip II of Spain. Actaeon was a hunter who had the misfortune to come across the goddess Diana bathing naked in the woods. To silence him, she turned him into a stag and watched as he was killed by his own hounds. Danae has been locked up in a tower by her father to preserve her virginity, but Jupiter visits her in a shower of gold, making this the most erotic picture in the whole series. So she got pregnant after all. Her son, Perseus, kills the Gorgon Medusa, rescues Princess Andromeda from sacrifice to a sea monster, and then uses Medusa's head to turn all his rivals into stone. What richness! If one painter can do this with just 3 stories, imagine what happens with 5 centuries of poetry, art, music, and opera. For more, go to the class website, branier.com/Ovid. I shall add more to it over the summer.
Hi, I'm Kumar Dixit. I am teaching a class this upcoming semester called Immigrant Voices. Doesn't that sound like the best class you could ever take? You know, I've read a lot of books, a lot of short stories. I'm not sure if you're a fan of Faulkner or maybe Hemingway or Margaret Atwood's works. I mean, there's some really fantastic voices that we've had in literature. But one of the things that has been missing, in my opinion, is voices from the margins. People who have stories of immigration, people who have stories of moving to America, having first-generation immigrant stories. And so I want to introduce you to a book called Immigrant Voices, 21st Centuries. It is really a great book of collections of essays of people's different experiences. And I'm hoping to kind of just broaden our reading and our world to kind of get a better idea of other people's perspectives while also embracing the American story as well. So I hope that you'll join me. I'm looking forward to facilitating the class.
Hi, I'm Dorothea Israel Wolfson, and I'll be teaching a course this fall for Osher called Models of Democratic Leadership in America. Up until recently, the continuity and survival of America's democratic system of government was taken for granted by most commentators. After all, the United States Constitution is the longest lasting written constitution of all time. Yet in recent decades, American democracy has faced increased challenges and tensions, riddled by deep political polarization and divisions, with extreme politics taking root on both the left and the right. This political polarization has become further amplified and entrenched by new digital technologies. The algorithms and bots of the internet and the social media universe increasingly create misinformed citizens and silo them into hardened, polarized camps. So this course aims to explore the concept of democratic leadership, its innate challenges, tensions, limitations, and potential through different periods of American history. Our aim is to discover patterns and trends in the dynamics of democratic leadership through our study of some of the individuals who both founded America's political institutions, as well as those leaders who led America through times of great difficulty. Now, it is my hope that this class will provide you with the framework for better assessing more contemporary American leaders today and the overall state of American democracy. I really hope you'll join me this fall to discuss all these important questions. Thank you.
What the new people are going to be doing is exactly what we promised to do. We are going to basically, along with the police, be targeting the leadership of the leading gangs in Montgomery County, the ones that are leading the way in terms of homicides and violent crime. And we know who they are. We are going to basically begin to mine information off of social media. We're going to run wiretaps. We're going to monitor their jail phone calls. We are going to begin intelligence. Look, I'm not afraid to tell you exactly what we're going to do, because we're going to do it. And we want to make this an unhealthy environment for people to come into as a gang member and think they can stay here and be below the radar. The last time there was a major RICO prosecution of MS-13, for example, when 42 people were indicted in a federal indictment, it was back in 2007. I will tell you, that kind of debilitated MS-13 in Maryland and in this region for about a decade. This resurgence in many ways with MS-13, not that this is not a one gang issue. There are multiple gangs: Hit Squad, Latin Kings, Bloods, Crips. We have gang issues that go beyond a single gang. So I don't want this to be a monolith story about one gang. But I will tell you, when we had a successful prosecution against MS-13, we were able to basically debilitate that gang and cut the head off of that gang for about 10 years. Now they came back with a vengeance. And we were told, look, we were told 2 years ago, they're coming back, that there are orders out of El Salvador to rebuild the numbers, to go heavy into recruitment, and actually try to go into areas where you could make more money.
Hello, I'm Ken Hinga. We'll be offering a class on environmental sciences this fall and winter. We're going to look at some of the physical processes that are central to our understanding of some environmental issues. The objective is to give you the background to make choices, personal choices. These choices we face in our daily lives might include which policies to support and what personal actions to take or avoid. The principles we'll look at are pretty straightforward, and no scientific background is needed. This is intended for the lay audience. The topics we'll cover in this class are climate change, both the history and causes and effects. We'll look at various types and properties of renewable energy, a much understood topic of nuclear radiation and waste. The movies are a terrible place to learn about nuclear materials. Marine dead zones, and the fate of chemicals in the environment, especially looking at some of those forever chemicals, which are ubiquitous in our human tissue these days. Along the way, we will look at some facets and norms of the conduct of scientific research, including scientific publications, some advisory committees, and how journalism treats science, help you to understand better what is in the press. So with that, I hope to see you in the fall, and that'll be it for here.